I want to shift topics a little bit to the Supreme Court, some of the things that you guys provide a lot of insight on in the Verdict podcast. So the most recent Verdict podcast, you spoke on the latest Supreme Court decisions.
Yeah.
And there's been a great deal of criticism from the right of Chief Justice John Roberts. Senator Cruz, I think you referred to him as the new Sandra Day O'Connor.
Yeah.
But amid that news, there's been some rumors that Justice Samuel Alito may retire. Hugh Hewitt spoke about this on his podcast, on his radio show. Have you heard anything to make you think that that's likely?
I don't think it'll happen. I've heard the same rumors. There's chattering. And actually, to be fair, every June and July, Washington is sort of consumed by those chattering rumors. So the Supreme Court term comes to an end and everyone's like, all right, is there going to be a vacancy? There's some chattering about Justice Alito stepping down. There's some chattering about Justice Thomas stepping down. Personally, I don't think either one is going to, but they might. Look, I mean, it's a decision that each justice makes for his or herself. I don't think they will do so. The other speculation is about Justice Ginsburg. Now, Justice Ginsburg is, I believe, a 4-time cancer survivor,
yeah.
but she is tough as nails.
Indestructible. Right?
And I don't think Justice Ginsburg will voluntarily step down. I think the timing of her leaving the court is in the hands of the good Lord, that as long as she is able physically, she'll be there. So my guess is I don't think we'll have a vacancy this year, but you never know. Look, people fall over dead. I mean, we talked about 3, but it could be someone. Do you remember early on when John Roberts had only been on the court a couple of years? I think he was on a dock or something, and he fainted and had a medical spell.
Yeah.
And it was sort of a reminder that, okay, we think of justices who retire or pass on in their 70s or 80s or 90s, but there's nothing to guarantee that you or I are going to be here tomorrow.
That's right. Every time you cross the street, you're taking your life in your hands. You don't know when you're going to leave. So I suppose, but Senator, you've clerked on the court. You've argued many cases on the court, and so that kind of chatter, that kind of speculation, that's an eternal fact of politics.
It is. I remember back a number of years ago where there was chatter about Justice Stevens stepping down, and it was during the Clinton White House. And I remember meeting with some of the leadership, the Federalist Society, and it was sort of a problem. What do we do about it? And one of the decisions we made is let's actually amplify this chatter a little bit, because the person this is going to piss off is Justice Stevens. Because the Clinton White House was all eager to replace him. We want a young leftist. We don't want an old leftist, so get rid of you, old guy. And we kind of made the judgment, all right, I think John Paul Stevens will not be terribly thrilled by that. I don't know if it had an effect or not, but he didn't step down there.
Right.
And I want to ask you about the accomplishment that's frequently touted by the Trump administration, and that's the confirmation of 200 federal judges.
Yeah.
When the president was even asked about it during a Fox News town hall about what his biggest accomplishments were, he cited that very thing. Can you explain why you consider that a victory for conservative voters? How is it different from the Supreme Court issue? Why does it matter to voters?
So it is a major victory. It's one of the most important things that has been accomplished in the last 4 years under President Trump. It's also the single biggest reason that I voted for Donald Trump. I've got a book that's coming out this fall in October that's called One Vote Away. How one seat on the Supreme Court can change history. And it goes through issue after issue, fundamental constitutional liberties, free speech, religious liberty, the Second Amendment. It goes through criminal justice. It goes through our basic rights. It goes through U.S. sovereignty. And it talks about how case after case after case, the outcome hangs by a single vote. And what the book does, many of the landmark cases in these issues, I had the privilege of litigating. And so before I was in the Senate, my career was a Supreme Court litigator. And so what I do in the book is just tell war stories, just talk about, all right, here's what was really going on behind the scenes. And actually, frankly, Michael, I haven't told you this. In some ways, the book it is a kind of literary version of what we're trying to do in the podcast. So the podcast is trying to take an issue, whether it was the impeachment trial or whether it is sitting down with Bill Barr, the Attorney General, to talk about riots and vandalism and people assaulting the country, and trying to take people behind the scenes, trying to say, here's really what's going on. Our basic liberties are fundamentally under assault. Now, in our judicial system, federal judges, so the way the judicial system works, there are two systems. There are state judges, there are federal judges. On the federal side, there are three levels of judges, three principal levels. There are what are called federal district judges. Those are the trial judges. They sit typically as a single judge. They conduct trials. Trials have juries often. Trials have lawyers putting on evidence. So you can think of a district court as determining facts. So you have a witness who testifies. You have Perry Mason.
Yeah.
You know, damn it, you never saw Mr. Smith there, did you? That's a trial.
Yeah.
After the trial, the losing party can appeal, and appeals go to the federal courts of appeals if you're in the federal system. There are 13 federal courts of appeals across the country. And the federal courts of appeals resolve, they don't have trials. So an appellate argument is very different from a trial. They don't actually hear witnesses, they don't consider evidence. They listen to lawyers, they read briefs, and they hear legal arguments. And appellate courts are designed to resolve questions of law. In the vast majority of cases, the final decision in your case, whether it's a criminal case, I'm not sure why I look at you for a criminal case, Michael.
You know, just natural. I don't know what it is. It just feels so
this swarthy character here, you know, or whether it's a civil case, you're suing someone. In the overwhelming majority of cases, the courts of appeals are the final forum, and the reason is, after the Court of Appeals, you can appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court's docket is discretionary. It doesn't have to take a case. In a typical year, the Supreme Court gets about 8,000 what are called cert petitions. That's a request for the Supreme Court to take a case. And it grants about 100.
Yeah.
So it is a tiny percentage. So going back to your question, Anthony, the 200 federal judges, almost all of them, all but two, are on the courts of appeals or on the district courts. And so they're resolving questions of religious liberty, of free speech, of criminal law, of due process, of property rights. That they're resolving those questions every day. And not every judge that the president has put on the bench has been terrific, but I will say the caliber of the 200 judges has been really strong. And there have been a lot of really terrific judges put on the courts of appeals, and especially the courts of appeals, and that's important.